I was thinking about something earlier. Lao Tzu once said that the leader's best work is done when the people say, we did it ourselves. Some people are going to think this is a coded political thing, but it's not. Anytime a leader makes themselves sort of irreplaceable, or people are thinking of somebody who's in leadership as being irreplaceable, like sometimes that just is true. So I'm not saying that it's never a thing, but that's not a good thing. Just from a systems perspective, it is a bad system if it just like completely rides on just one person getting it right. Like if you're even in that situation to begin with, it's a bad thing. The point I'm really trying to make here though is like, you have to think of it from your perspective. Like there's only so much anybody can do to change the leader of a country or an organization or even the place you work at. Like you can't work at a Wendy's and change the person who's like the manager. The question then is like, well, what do you do? The solution to that really is just stop having that mentality like it's everybody else's responsibility to like fix all your problems and stuff. Now you should be learning from anybody. A good teacher, a good leader is a teacher, which is kind of what Lao Tzu is trying to say, I think, or he's pretty profound. He's probably trying to say a bunch of things. The idea is like, if a good leader does best when the people say they did it themselves, he probably taught those people how to just do things themselves. So you can't change, you can only do so much to change or choose different leaders or whatever. Like there's a little bit you can do, but much, much more than that. The vast majority of what you can do is just learn and empower yourself and take responsibility. And listen, taking responsibility isn't like, oh man, I don't want to take out the trash, even though it is. And I hate taking out the trash. Taking responsibility gets you a bunch of printers. Like I've taken responsibility for a whole bunch of customer orders and stuff. And that has sucked a lot of the time, but it's also pretty cool. I don't know, perhaps I was just raised in a different era. But like, I watched all those 90s action movies and the guy's always taking responsibility. He's like, I'm gonna save this prison, or I'm gonna save this planet, or this renegade. We're gonna save this runaway bus. Anyway, I don't know why that rant popped into my head first thing for this video, but it did. And we're about authenticity here. Quick morning roundup. Basically on this side, we just made a whole bunch of spools. We're gonna get into making normal stuff again, but we need a lot of spools, so we made a lot of spools. Alien head got done. Smaller alien head, very close to done. It's a gorgeous looking boy right there, look at that. Alien hands, done. That very, very special D20 for the person's wedding that we rush produced, coming along nicely. This is a second coffee cup and dish, going so far pretty good. Second alien. I think one of these is silver, and the other one is green or gold or something. I'm gonna do the eye thing. You guys have seen that before. Just a classic good looking alien. It's a pretty big boy right there. Speaking of coffee cups, this is the one that it's like a joke gift for somebody. They're gonna be like, here's your coffee cup, is this enough? And we gotta get this out. I always wish the customers could like send me pictures of the thing. Like it'd be funny if they made the person take a picture with it or something, but they probably aren't going to. That ought to do it. I believe this is the only large thing we have going out today, so we're just gonna take this and drop it off. I didn't exactly say this, but I think this is for a birthday or something, so I do want to get it out as fast as possible. Nobody likes their birthday present to be late. You'll hear about it. Oh man, it's Saturday? Really? Okay, we'll ignore all that. We're getting coffee. their birthday present's just gonna have to wait. Man, it's just been one of those weeks where I can't keep track of time. Maybe it's the filament thing. Having 2 filament, oh, I left them on. Right, they're heating up. Yeah. See, I'm glad I talked about this. Yup. It's not a problem or anything. I had just plugged them in before I left. And like, if I was just dropping off a package, it would have been fine. But, yeah, I can't just let them keep heating up this whole time. Yeah, we're just gonna unplug it. I really want to get that coffee. Anyone that's wondering about the geography involved, the place I drop off packages is right down the street. So, yeah. There really isn't a place in Nacogdoches that's truly far away from here because it's small. But Dunkin' Donuts is a little too far away to be leaving stuff on. All right, let's get that sick bean water. Yeah. I was kind of just thinking about authenticity, because I think I said at the beginning of this that this channel is about authenticity. I kind of take ideas seriously, at least a lot of times I do. I also take a lot of ideas not seriously, but I was thinking about the fact that one of the things I did before this back in the day is during Christmas, sometimes I would live stream me packaging stuff, because during some of those Christmases, it's like just 6-7 hours straight of packaging things. Somebody's trying to get in front of me. Go ahead. Anyway, so that does feel kind of authentic, but this isn't a live stream. This is meant to be an authentic slice of life, I think is a good way to think about what this has kind of become. I'm not really showing everything, but I'm showing like a little bit of everything. I mean, there's a lot of boring stuff. Like sometimes I'm just packaging a bunch of things you guys have seen before like a million times. So like I'm kind of just picking what to film or what not to film, but it's all meant to at least give you a pretty solid flavor of what it's like to run a 3D printing business, which I guess is kind of the North Star here. Like right now, I am authentically craving a dunk, even for that craving.
Hi, what are the dunk girls we're gonna do for you?
I think I'm just gonna get a big old cold brew with cream. Large.
A large cold brew with cream?
Yup.
Do you want anything else in there? That can be all.
I think that'll be it.
You can pull 4.
Alright, thanks. I've never heard that person before. That's what I look at every time. She wasn't bad. I actually have been with somebody who was a barista, but only briefly. Maybe I need to be with like a real barista, you know, the Dunkin' variety. Classic. Yeah! You won't be getting. And bust a move. Just bust a move. Maybe I need to bust a move with that girl at the coffee shop. Man, they're playing some good stuff today. One of the best funk riffs ever. Since it is a fine Saturday, I think I'm gonna go to this Goodwill. You gotta celebrate the weekend a little bit, even if it's in a small way. Even if you work all the time. Oh yeah, we're picking up that other printer tomorrow. I gotta remember. I'm not having a great day for memory. It is a very decent day for a walk downtown. Here we go. Wow, I kind of wish I had a VHS player. I'm gonna say too big. That is a winner. It's too bad that's all messed up and weird looking. It's actually pretty cool. Wow, I've always wanted one of those. Nice little excursion, very short excursion for a Saturday. got a couple things here. The dressing rooms were all booked up, which is not very common here in Nacogdoches, but the little mirror thing, it works. I kind of got a weird craving yesterday to watch The Matrix again. I kind of hate doing that thing where you rent on Amazon Prime or whatever video. So sometimes when I'm like craving a movie, I don't really watch that many movies, but when I do, I just go look for it. And I didn't find The Matrix, but I did find the first Star Wars movie on Blu-ray, which I think it's got a bunch of special features and stuff. I kind of missed the whole special features thing with streaming. You just don't get that. Yeah, I think it does have a bunch of stuff like that. Anyway, so I picked it up. It's only a couple bucks. And we got this. Anybody that's ever been on a basketball team knows what this is. Now you might be like, why did you buy this? I don't know. It's just very cool. Sometimes I'm trying not to be a hoarder. You know, I get rid of things and I don't really just needlessly collect stuff. Sometimes I just find an item that's so unique. Plus this was $2. I find an item that's so unique that I just think like, if it's just a couple bucks, I'll buy it and I'll probably find some quirky use for it. I kind of like the symbolic imagery of one of these things. Like, we're going to plan things up. You go left, I go right. You're going to press the center. And like, maybe I can hang this up and put goals on it or something like that. Because it's a whiteboard, in case you didn't get that. But yeah, I love this object. Indiana is kind of the basketball state, if anybody didn't know. The Midwest in general, you know, the Chicago Bulls are from Chicago. It's the Midwest, a couple hours away from where I grew up. Basketball was a really big thing. I was on the basketball team before I got into music. I was the worst person on the team though. I made the team, but I guarantee you there's no statistic where I wasn't the worst player. Basically, I was cool, but I was just barely cool. That tradition continues today. I don't want anybody to get the wrong impression. Yes, I totally hated high school. I despised it. And I graduated bottom of my class. That is not a joke either. I graduated dead last out of everybody in my class. In fact, I wasn't gonna graduate on time, but there was a teacher, it was a history teacher, Mr. Phillips, Tim Phillips. He's a very cool guy. I'm still friends with him on Facebook. He let me make up an assignment, and that just barely got me a passing grade. I am one of the few people on earth, I bet, that I skipped a grade and I graduated dead last in my class. I skipped second grade, never went to it because I knew everything, but then I graduated dead last. That can't be statistically likely. Feels so wrong taking this package out of my car. I really, really wanted to get this little turd of a bass out the door. I wish I could just wear sunglasses all day. Maybe that's my new goal in life. I think we're going to enact a new rule. I've been playing around with this, but I think I have to mount a spool on here and get it spinning before I plug it in. And the reason is because I hear the spool spinning, and now with two of them, it'll make even more noise. I'll hear that and remember that the thing is heating up. See, with the filament setups, it's all about the sound. Like, obviously, I can hear the sound of the motor. You get so used to this when you're like 10 feet away from it all the time. You know, if the motor sound goes down in pitch, it's like, oh, something's wrong. If it goes up in pitch, it's like we're running out of pellets, because that's what happens. The motor doesn't have to work as hard, or it can work harder. I don't really know. I am not a gear motor engineer. But if this is on, you know, there's a little sound and it's like, oh, the thing is starting up. So I think that needs to be a hard and fast rule. I don't like that I drove off with these things heating up, and it wasn't a big deal today or anything. Nothing bad happened. And I'm not 100% sure that anything bad would happen, but I don't like to get even sort of close to bad things happening. So this being on with a with a spool on it at least. I think that needs to be the rule. There we go. It's spinning. Now we heat up the system. Rule followed. What happened today was a example of only thinking one step ahead. Ugh, sneezing. I was thinking a move ahead, like, okay, things are heating up, so I'm just gonna go to Klein's and drop off that package. That takes like 5 minutes and it's right down the street, so it's not a big deal. But then it's like, I didn't think about the fact that it's Saturday and that they're closed. And then I didn't think about like, well, what would I do if I just showed up and it's closed and I realize it's Saturday? The thing I'm gonna do is maybe go get coffee or something like that. And coffee is too far away. That's why you see, this whole thing, this entire business is about process design. I don't know if you guys think about that or not, and I'm not an expert in it or anything, but I've been doing this for 6 years. So you have to think about all of your processes. You got to think about like, well, what if this weird thing happens? It's kind of like chess. It's like several moves ahead. This is a tangible example of something like that. You know, this is a new thing. Anytime there's a novel, new thing, you have to realize all the possibilities. And if I foul up these barrels, I mean, I could probably clean out the barrels with burnt plastic and stuff, but I've never done that before and I don't know if it'll work, and it is gonna be really hard. And it's best if that never happens. So we're just gonna think several moves ahead and be like, there is a rule. The spools have to be turning while it's heating up. That's going to be a tangible thing that's in my mind. It's like, oh, this thing is heating up. I either can't leave or I have to really emphasize that if I leave, it has to be super brief. So I'm not trying to just go on and on about this. It's probably kind of boring for a lot of people. But it's like if you have a little craft business on Etsy, you're just selling something that's like crocheted or something small. You don't have to worry about like complex processes and how they interfere with each other, which that's basically how my business started, you know. But this is the natural evolution. You start integrating more steps into the process and doing more things, and you really have to think about like the efficient way to do things, the safe way to do things, blah 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 blah. So I just wanted to take this example that just happened right in front of your eyes and show you how you actually have to think about this stuff. Show, don't tell. I put all the spools we ended up making on the racks and stuff. And obviously we got that one too. We pretty much maxed out all the little standy, stacky things. And so we are ready to produce. Also went by the dollar store to pick up a couple of useful things. This is going to go on top of this. I don't know if you can notice, but I can barely read those numbers when I'm just standing at a normal height. But with a mirror, once I adjust it, that'll solve the problem. I also got this mirror in case the other one doesn't work for some reason. I can mount this in a given position with one of these gooseneck things like I use. And got some cable ties, zip ties. And this comes with 4 different sizes, which is actually pretty nice. There are some uses that I use zip ties for where I really need the small ones. So that's nice. Speaking of which, I just discovered one. There we go. And we're gonna have Gandalf hold it in place. Much easier. See, that is why you don't put the tape somewhere that you don't normally put the tape, because you will forget where you put the tape. Oh, by the way, very disappointingly, I am pretty sure the thank you cards didn't work. We mailed those over the weekend and it's Saturday now, so it's been a week. They've definitely been delivered. I want to say about 30 of them went out, and I haven't gotten a single review from any of them. I mean, I wouldn't have guessed that nobody would respond, but we're gonna try one more thing with the thank you cards. All of those people had ordered something about 2 months ago, I think I might need to aim for people who have ordered more recently. So maybe we'll go for like about 1 month. But yeah, it's not looking good for the thank you card experiment. Kind of wonky, in fact, extremely wonky. But this is the chart of how many views per day that I generally get. You can see that the average is kind of vaguely going up, but there's also this descending line of resistance. This is like one of the early ones that got really big. This is, you know, another one. In trading, what often happens when you have a line of resistance like this is eventually something breaks the line of resistance and it goes way up. And this would be the number of views per video. So I'm not saying that's gonna happen, but this is a traditional charting pattern. Actually, correction, that's not views per video, that's views per day. It includes, you know, other stuff. This guy's up to temperature. This one's about to be. It sounds stupid, but this little mirror really does help. Like, what I've been doing is getting on this step stool, step ladder, whatever you call it. But like, I can just do this. It's a small thing, but it's kind of nice. Got both of the systems running. Just talking to somebody in the comments, and I mentioned that I grew up next to they're from the Midwest too. I grew up next to a rusted out steel mill, at least for a while. It's funny because like when you grow up in that kind of environment, this place was a biohazard. It's almost like saying to you, get used to this. This is your future. It's like that scene in Back to the Future where he's talking to the little baby and he's like, better get used to these bars, kid. Now that that's squared away, we got to get these printers running. All this stuff got done overnight. In a little bit, we're going to pop another spool on that. It can go a little farther, but when you make your own homemade filaments, sometimes the first few like go rounds, the diameters haven't been quite dialed in well enough. I mean, you try your best, but it kind of takes a while before stuff gets really consistent. So with these large things, you don't want to mess it up. Already took the thing off there, and this alien got done as well. So we got a bunch of printers that need to be pumping out at least some sharks for Christmas and probably other stuff. So just as we get 2 filament setups going, this motor just died. So it's just my luck. We get 2 filament setups and the motor is petering out. I've seen it a million times. I know that there's nothing else wrong. That motor just spontaneously decided to stop working. So it's nice that we have 1 filament setup and this isn't a crisis, but like now I'm gonna have to order another motor and install it in the first setup, the initial one. Somebody asked in the comments, like, considering that you have to keep swapping these motors, is it really worth it? The answer is yes. I've calculated the amount that it saves me, and each motor pays for itself, considering the amount of filament it produces. It pays for itself in a week. So it is worth doing. But like, you never know how long these things are gonna last. The first motor lasted 6 or 7 months. I shouldn't say the first one. The first one you've seen in this series. That only failed after about 6 or 7 months. This one failed after like a month. Something like that. Well, I could actually look up the episode number, but it's something close to a month. And you just never know what you're gonna get. Which is kind of why it's nice having 2 filament systems, because now it's just not a crisis if one fails, even though it's really inconvenient considering we're trying to save up all the filament. But a new motor usually shows up in like less than a week, so it's not really a crisis, but it's just, man, it's annoying. The thing that made me realize this was happening is this is making, it's hard to tell with the other one, but it's making a very low pitch. Like you can just barely hear it. So it's still extruding, and we might get a full roll before it's all done, but this is going super slow. You can see like how slow it's having to turn to keep up with the low extrusion. So we might get the rest of this spool, but yeah, that supremely sucks. You can see how slow this is extruding. Like, I can do this. I'm like, yeah, that's going real slow. Also, the speed controller is turned up all the way. It's the first thing I tried. Started out the episode talking about process design, and this is one of them right here, baby. Redundant systems. This is frustrating, but it is not a crisis because we've got this one. And there's very little chance that this one will also stop working within 5 days. And even if it does, we've got a decent amount saved up already, so a day or two without this, I mean, I don't even want to think about that. It's not going to happen. I guess another process design lesson to be learned from this little episode is I used the extra motor that I had, the extra extrusion motor for the filament thing. I used it on the new setup, of course, because it needed a motor. And I hadn't ordered another spare motor yet, which I figured it's like, these are both pretty new motors. I probably had a week or two at least to do it. But I hadn't ordered it yet, and if I would have ordered it, then I would be able to replace this today. So we would have another week or 5 or 6 days of filament production, which missing out on that filament production is not a tragedy because I was operating on one extruder before. But from a process design standpoint, it would have been better to order that extra spare motor like day one right away. So I guess lesson learned. Whoa, this just sped up again. Okay, that is bizarre. All right, I'm just gonna shut this off for a bit. It just sped up, but not quite to normal speed. Sometimes these motors do stuff like that when they're going bad. They'll be slow for a while. That does seem to indicate there might have been something stuck in here though, but I didn't see anything weird come out. I think we'll just leave it alone for a while and then tentatively try to make filament with it again. I ordered a spare motor just now, which is good to have anyway, but I'm still thinking this is probably bad. Man, it is always something. Maybe we'll get a couple more rolls out of that motor before it fails completely. Who knows? But I think I'm going to go on a Segway adventure again. I'm gonna get a Subway sandwich. I guess another possibility is something could be wrong with this bearing, which is unlikely because it's brand new. But if the bearing wasn't rotating right, the bearing keeps the drive shaft from coming out this way because there's back pressure. If the bearing was bad, you could get this happening, but we'll only do that if it's definitely like not working. If it stops extruding, rather. Whew. Well, we out here. Sunset Segway Adventures. Somebody in the comments intelligently asked, why don't other businesses make their own filament? Which there probably are some really big ones that do, you know, you'd have to think. But the reason basically nobody makes their own filament is that. Because of what just happened. I just made a big video about like, well, I got 2 extrusion systems, man. And then the first one just fails out of nowhere. I mean, it really might have been, now that I'm thinking about it, I don't know what would have gotten stuck in the barrel causing it to slow down like that. It might be the bearing thing I just talked about. Could be the bearings worn out. Maybe I got a faulty bearing or one that didn't last very long. Maybe the brand of thrust bearing that I bought just doesn't last very long. It would suck if I had to take apart the whole thing and change out the thrust bearing every single month, but I would do it. It's still worth it. I just don't know why that would, like, it's just a bunch of ball bearings that are in a thing. Like, why would it wear out so fast when the other ones don't? I bet a lot of you guys' eyes are just glazing over talking about thrust bearings. But for anybody that's interested, the difference, let me dodge this branch. The difference is the thrust bearings I bought have the correct inner diameter, but the outer diameter, which shouldn't matter that much, is slightly smaller. Now, we're not talking about a big difference. The thrust bearing that comes with the extruder is like an inch and a half, and the thrust bearings I bought, the outer diameter is like an inch and a quarter, which just doesn't seem like it would matter mechanically. And it worked for a long time, and I haven't taken the thing apart, so I don't have any evidence that the original thrust bearing isn't working, because it actually seems like it's working. And when thrust bearings stop working, they start squeaking really loudly, which it wasn't doing. So I have no reason to think that thrust bearing isn't working at all. But it's like one of the only things I can think of that would cause a motor that's perfectly fine to extrude slowly. Anyway, all that's to say, that's why people don't make their own filament. When there was no way, there was Subway. Bag secured. By the way, the promo code stopped working. It was FL699 and now it's FTL699, but that stopped working. And there's a promo code out there called 699FL, for $6.99 foot long. But this location is not participating. So probably gonna order less of these. I'm not paying full price for this crap. I actually do like a good Subway sandwich. It's nowhere near the best kind of like sandwich, sub sandwich you'll ever get in the world. In Austin, they had Thundercloud subs. And although those guys took forever to make your sub because they were probably high, and I mean all of them were probably high. But once the sub was done, it was pretty dang good. Let's wolf this down, and then we're gonna get into, I've gotten several of the big printers printing, but we'll get the rest of them going. Got some stuff to package. This is a very gorgeous metallic bronze octopus. And look at that. Imagine having that on your wall. I mean, you'd probably arrange the tentacles differently. Man, that's super cool. I really want to do a giant wall octopus. In fact, I don't even know why I haven't done that yet. It would be very easy to do. You just scale it up pretty much. A couple little things would have to be designed different, but that's a great finish. Everybody gets a cupcake. Little Sharko guy. Well, it's back up to temperature. Let's see if this thing's gonna work. I mean, I'm pretty sure the motor is dying, but maybe we can get a couple more rolls or something. Remember that pitch. If the pitch lowers, this thing is doomed. Okay, so weirdly, I mean, it's still the beginning of the roll, but the pitch is not going down on that motor. It does seem like it's running slower than it used to. Well, we'll just use it as long as we can use it, I guess. I've been really obsessed with this song. It is from 1985, and it's pretty freaking cool. All right, let's tape off their eyes. There we go. Green, silver.